Imagine if I told you that NASA's problems are now arising from a law meant to slow China's space program. Welcome to a world where world politics and space exploration unexpectedly collide. Ever wonder how competing countries influence scientific advancement? Or what happens when a country that once led a field finds itself catching up? Today we will explore a topic challenging all you believed you knew about the space race. Imagine this, never before collected in human history, far-side lunar soil samples. Imagine now that except from those from one nation, these samples are open to researchers all around. Now, let us think some questions before we reveal which country is excluded and the reason behind it. How have past policies affected present scientific activity? When political actions lag behind technological developments, what happens? Get ready to have your views tested as we investigate these issues. Though the scene has changed a lot lately, you might believe you know who is driving the space race. We will correct common misconceptions about international scientific collaboration and competition, as well as provide some startling statistics. With stops at crowded Chinese launch sites and tense diplomatic negotiations along the way, get ready for a trip from Washington, D.C. to the moon's surface. This video will give you a fresh perspective on the complex dance between science and politics in the 21st century. Are you ready to find out how a past political law is currently producing unexpected consequences? Let's dive right into our main topic. Returning soil samples from the far side of the moon, China's moon probe CH-6 made history on June 25th. This achievement marks a significant change in space exploration and generates interest among scientists all around. This is where it becomes fascinating. China said it welcomed inquiries for these valuable moon samples coming from all around the world. That is every country except one, the United States. This exclusion stems from legislation sometimes known as the Wolf Amendment. Approved on May 16, 2011, this law forbids any kind of space exploration cooperation between China and the United States. In scientific circles, this is a classic example of how political decisions can have long-lasting and usually unanticipated consequences. Chief Bill Nelson of NASA found himself in a strange position. He urged American scientists on one hand to get access to the lunar samples. On the other hand, he stressed the need of collaborating with lawyers to ensure China followed the Wolf Amendment. This paradox highlights the difficult balance between political reality and scientific goals. The irony strikes Chinese scientists as unavoidable. After China's moon expedition went without a hitch, the United States sent a team eager to discuss preserving historic objects on the moon. Mostly the American flag and footprints left by American astronauts in 1969. It reminds us sharply how quickly roles might change in space exploration. Still, the story doesn't end here. China's space program advances while the United States debates legal constraints. During a ground test in China's Hainan province on June 13, a rocket suddenly took off and exploded on impact. Though this seems concerning, the engineers were rather happy. Why? The accident revealed their engine's performance above expectations and increased thrust above intended levels. This event draws attention to a major approach difference. While U.S. space activities are progressively caught in legal and political considerations, China's program seems to adopt a fail fast, learn faster attitude. It reminds us that even mistakes might unexpectedly propel development. The rocket under test was supposed to challenge Falcon 9, developed by SpaceX. Chinese space companies seem to be outpacing Falcon 9 in some areas, not merely catching up with about 820 tons of sea-level thrust against 751 tons. Still, space is not the only field where China is causing a stir. Now ranking among the top patent powers worldwide, China is expected to submit almost half of all patent applications by 2022. Mostly thanks to China's efforts, 3.4 million worldwide patent filings in 1980 will have jumped to 6.5 million in 2022. These developments show a fast-changing global scientific scene, long regarded as the leader in space exploration and technological innovation. The United States now finds itself in a strange position, catching up in some areas while still limited by laws restricting its capacity to work with and compete effectively. This situation raises serious questions about the direction of scientific advancement in a world growing more connected. Should political influences exceed scientific cooperation? How can nations balance their concerns about national security with their need for global cooperation in addressing common issues? Particularly instructive is the nature of the moon soil samples. Scientists all around have a rare opportunity here to examine lunar material never before accessible to humans. However, a law passed more than 10 years ago may cause American researchers to miss this amazing opportunity for discovery. Politics influences not only sentiments about space exploration. American companies have jointly opposed President Biden's latest policy aiming at Chinese cranes by taxing 25% of these important pieces of port equipment. Port operators contend this action will only serve to undermine American interests by lowering port efficiency, increasing supply chain stress, and finally driving up living expenses for American people. This scenario suggests a more general trend whereby economic policies unintentionally affect scientific and technical advancement. The need for smart, adaptable solutions becomes ever more evident as the world scene gets more complicated and rising nations question accepted wisdom. Interestingly, different nations and groups are addressing these problems while the US government works through them. Think about the route taken by France. With a Chinese partner, this century-old car company recently revealed plans to mass-produce electric cars. This action comes even while the European Union discusses taxing Chinese electric vehicles. Emphasizing China's sophisticated system of mega factories, first-rate engineering, and raw material refining techniques, Renault's CEO stressed the need of building relationships with Chinese companies. This contrasts sharply with the US strategy, which shows that not all Western institutions see China's technological developments as a threat. To some extent, even the Vatican is collaborating with China. Expanding on a temporary agreement signed in 2018, it approved on June 12th a new bishop of a diocese in Jiangxi province of China. This agreement allows the Chinese government to name bishops in line with the Vatican, facilitating the joint appointment of 6 bishops thus far. In fields like space exploration and port technology, the US approach contrasts sharply with these instances of teamwork in the car sector and even in religious matters. They raise significant questions about the best approaches to interact with a growing tech power like China. It's important to remember, as we examine these developments, that open communication and cooperation have historically propelled science forward. The International Space Station is evidence of what can be accomplished when nations put aside their differences towards common goals. Still, we have to honor the legitimate worries underlying rules like the Wolf Amendment. Real concerns about national security, intellectual property protection, and tech edge preservation abound in a world going more and more competitive. The challenge then is striking a balance between defending national interests and preventing stifling of the very innovation and development we seek. This could demand a review of present policies, a readiness for sophisticated diplomacy, and maybe most importantly, an awareness that in many spheres of scientific activity, cooperation might produce more advantages than competition. Then, it is abundantly clear as we conclude our investigation of this intricate issue, there are no simple solutions. The interaction of politics, money, and scientific advancement will keep changing our planet in both expected and surprising directions. What do you think? Should the United States adjust its stance regarding scientific cooperation with China? Or are the present limitations necessary protections? How can nations balance their concerns about economic competitiveness and national security with the need for free scientific interchange? We would value your opinions in the comments below. Share your thoughts on how countries should negotiate the difficulties of global scientific cooperation in a politically charged era. remember that the vast field of space and the intricate realm of international relations still hold much to learn. If you enjoyed this video, kindly like and subscribe for more content like this.